Welcome, Goddess. Introducing Sarah Miller, who is a speaker, writer, Kundalini yoga teacher, and mentor on living free of past pain and the shame codes. Sarah shares her video from shame to self-love from a deep space of personal life experiences, including sexual abuse in her childhood and how this created shame that she held on to for years until she finally put down what she calls the baton, the weight of the shame. She is now helping others do the same, and she offers us today methods of deeper healing, awareness, and forgiveness.
Welcome, my beautiful sister. I am so beyond honored to have you here watching this video right now. I am coming to you from the beautiful paradise of Bali. And I'm so excited to be talking with you today about something that is so near and dear to my heart. Before we dive in, let me introduce myself. My name is Sarah Miller, and I am an author, a sacred space holder, and a speaker. And all of my work centers around forgiveness and using it to release things like sexual shame and trauma and abuse that we have had happen in our lives, whether as a child, as an adult. These instances in our lives that leave us feeling like a victim, leave us feeling broken in some capacity, leave us feeling out of control of our lives in some way. They often, in my experience, these things like trauma and abuse that then leave us with this deep-seated shame. It's almost like somebody else is living our lives, and we don't fully understand how we can pull that person from the forefronts and step back into our lives as the person that we're here to be. And the work that I do is about taking that person not out of the picture, but out of the spotlight. Taking them out of the spotlight and trusting in the you that you're here to be, to stand in that spotlight and live the life that you are here to live. Today, we are going to walk through what exactly shame is, how it affects our lives, how it affects our bodies, and how we can use those effects to then take us on that journey back to self-love, take us on that journey back to healing. Because I think so often when we're talking about shame, when we're talking about guilt, when we're talking about trauma, when we're talking about abuse, there's this overarching feel in our society that we need to be ashamed for our shame, that we need to be ashamed for our anger, that we need to be ashamed for our guilt, that we need to be ashamed for having been abused. It's like, yeah, I get that you were abused, but it wasn't really that bad, just let it go. And speaking from experience, I know that mentality, that just let it go. It's done, it's over. That just let it go and move on mentality really crippled me for a long time. It left me depressed, it left me anxious, it left me with eating disorders, chronic fatigue, IBS, overworking, exhaustion, all the time, adrenal fatigue. So I felt crippled. And yet I felt like I had to wake up each day and struggle through life. And that's just how things were going to be. And it was all stemming from this really deep-rooted shame and trauma that I was carrying around from my childhood. When I was 12, I saw my dad for the last time. He was going to prison for child abuse, for rape, for molestation, and for quite a few other things, because he was a really, really broken person, and all he knew how to do was hand off his brokenness to other people. I remember right before he was going to prison, my brother and I still had to go over to his house for our court-mandated weekend visitations. And I got out of bed one morning and I had my t-shirt on, and my dad walked into the room and he said, "Sarah, you're getting a little big around the middle." And I remember in that moment feeling my face light on fire, my whole body filled with heat. It tensed up, and I felt like I had just been like cut open, and like a deer when it has its guts taken out, it's like completely emaciated. Like I felt so violated in that moment that he said that to me. And ever since that moment, I had this intense heated shame around my body, and specifically my stomach. If anybody ever looked at my stomach, I thought they thought that I was a disgusting human being, that I was fat. I felt so much shame around that area of my body, and as I carried around that shame in my life, it started, as I grew older, it started to manifest itself as things like IBS and insane discomfort in my digestion. I always had digestion problems of some sort. It then moved gradually into an incredibly massive hormonal imbalance where I didn't have a period for 5.5 years. And my body just went through this period of trying to get me to listen to the fact that I needed to deal with this shame that was going on, but I didn't understand that it was linked in some way. I didn't understand because nobody was telling me. Nobody was telling me, oh, Sarah, all of your health problems might have something to do with all of these emotional wounds that are in your head, all of these emotional wounds that are stored in different parts of your body. Nobody told me that. Nobody talked to me about that. And that's why I'm so passionate about this work, so passionate about sharing this message with you, in hopes that my story and my experience and the process that I'm going to walk you through today can give you answers and insight to your own body, answers and insight into your own life that can allow you to begin to move on that journey, along that path of shame and sexual shame and all of that, into self-love and healing. What is shame? What is trauma? What is abuse? What is all of that? I like to think of it like a baton that's passed on to us. Baton or a weight, whichever one works for you. And this is a baton or a weight that has been getting passed around for generations and generations and generations and generations. And at some point in time, we've been handed this baton in the form of somebody saying something rude to us, somebody raping us, abusing us, doing something really traumatic to us that has made us feel like a victim. They've passed along this baton to us. And society does not give us permission to set this baton down. Society in no way gives us permission to sit there and mourn the fact that we've been passed this bullshit piece of material that we're supposed to carry around. Society just says, shove it in the bottom of your bag and keep going. And for so long, that was what I tried to do. I tried to just shove it in the bottom of my bag. And like I said, it left me chronically fatigued. It left me underpaid in all of my jobs because I couldn't stand my ground. I couldn't stand in my boss's office and say, I am worth more than you're paying me. I was too scared. I was too scared because I had no sense of self-worth. This shame was leaving me so exhausted, so victimized that I couldn't see my own worth. And this is something that specifically sexual shame does to us. It makes us feel less than. It makes us feel guilty for existing, really, because it's something that steps in and it says things for us and it does things for us, and we witness it saying those things and doing those things. And we wish that we wouldn't be saying those things and we wouldn't be doing those things, but we really don't understand how we can take that person that's saying and doing those things out of the picture and step up and say and do the things that we want to do. We don't understand how we can stand in our power, how we can stop trying to fit into the boxes that everybody is trying to throw us in, because we've been so removed from that person that we were before we were hurt, that person that was free, that was limitless, that really just owned her worth, owned her power. We've been so far removed from that girl that we have no idea how to get her back. And society tells us that we need to be somebody that we're not. And And so this shame, what is it? It's this baton that we're carrying around that causes us to act and move and go about this world in a weird way. And the process of moving to self-love is really just that setting down of the baton, and rebuilding our lives free of it. And this takes time. This is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. However, once you start to set the baton down, once you've set the baton down and you start walking free of it, I guarantee you that all of these hormonal imbalances, all of these digestive issues, fatigue issues, not feeling creatively inspired, feeling stuck in your relationships, feeling like you're always getting yourself in the same cycle over and over and over, you're always getting hurt in the same way, ghosted by guys in the same way, all of these things, I promise you that as you start to set this baton down and do the work and walking away from it, sometimes setting the baton down is pretty easy, and it's the walking away and letting it stay there that's pretty hard, because we've walked around with it for so long, right? But as you do this work, I promise you that those things like fatigue, those things like digestive issues, those things like hormone imbalances, paired with taking care of your body and honoring your body, will dissipate. And suddenly they'll become a source of strength for you. They'll become that source of healing, right? This process is one of no longer shaming our darkness. And it's raining. This is beautiful. We're cleansing all of this shame, all of this guilt, all of it away. The world is saying, it's time, it's time, it's time. Anyways, so as we set this baton down and honor our bodies, that really is where it starts, in listening to our bodies and honoring our bodies. So like I was saying, I was having all of those digestive issues. I had no period for 5.5 years. My body was asking me to take a look. It was saying, girl, there's something wrong here. Can you just take a look? There's something really wrong here. But all I could see was the wrong. I couldn't see that my body was telling me something. All I could see was what society was telling me. Oh, there's something wrong with you. Let's put a pill on it and fix it. Nobody was asking me to listen. Nobody was asking me to see this as a gift. I saw it as something that was keeping me from where I wanted to go. It was hindering me from getting where I wanted to go. And I think that's where so many of us are at. So our work together here is to really begin to see what's going on in you. See this shame, see this guilt, see this trauma, see this abuse. See it all as a gift that's serving you an immense amount of strength, serving you an immense amount of determination, serving you an immense amount of bravery that you get to take with you for the rest of your life. And after you've used it to work through this shame, after you've used it to work through this trauma, after you've used it to work through all of these things, you'll be able to use it for things like jumping into your most amazing dreams. And I can tell you, sitting here in Bali with this rainstorm, this is something that I was only able to do because I made that shift from viewing my shame as this burden to viewing it as the biggest gift. And that is the miracle that we can turn these feelings into. So what is it to forgive? What is it to release shame? For me, it's, again, that setting down of the baton, but how do we do that? Well, in order to set down a baton, we first have to acknowledge that we're holding one and that we've been holding one. So often, as I mentioned, society wants to tell us that we should just hide the fact that we're holding onto a baton. So at some point in time, we almost forget that we're holding on to it. And the first step is just honoring and acknowledging that you're holding on to it. The second step is setting it down. And the setting it down can be a little difficult, to be honest, because it's become a part of your identity. It's become a part of who you are. And the setting it down is this point in time where we finally give ourselves permission to be the person that we were before we were hurt. This sexual shame is something that was unfairly given to us, but it was given to us. And our job is to give ourselves permission to be the person that we were before it was handed to us, so that we can then go out into the world and say to every single person we meet, whether they're carrying around a sexual shame, a trauma, a hurt, whatever, so that we can go into the world and say to them, listen, I've done it, I've set it down, and you can set it down too. Because in truth, like we were talking about, this baton causes us to act and say and do things that we wish we wouldn't act and say and do. It makes us feel ashamed and guilty for being in the world in a certain way, but we feel like we're out of control. And so it's like we're ashamed of being ashamed of being ashamed. And it's just like this constant, like this epic cycle. And it's awful. It's awful. So all we have to do is say, I give myself permission to be the person that I was before I was hurt. I give myself permission. And I know that sometimes I'm going to pick that baton back up. I know I am. But I have an awareness and a willingness to look at it every time I do and set it back down with a little more compassion, a little bit more love, a little bit more patience. And the more we do this, the easier the process becomes, and the quicker we walk away, right? So once we've gotten to that space of giving ourselves permission to set it down, then we have to say to that baton all that we need to say. And that sounds kind of silly because we're using this analogy. But what that looks like is saying all that you need to say to the person in your life that has hurt you. And the way that I teach doing this is through the process of letter writing. Through the process of sitting down and saying to the person who has handed us this baton all of the things that we need to say to them. We are not going to send this letter to them. This is something that is just for us. This is something that you can burn after you write if you want. This is something that isn't just going to be a one-time thing. This is probably going to be not a lifetime thing, but an extended thing. And so just give yourself permission to start writing. Every time you feel triggered, or if you're just in a space where you feel open and ready to let this go, start with "Dear so-and-so" and just go. And you can also write a letter to your body, "Dear body," or to yourself, "Dear self," and just start spewing talking about all of those times that you said and did things you didn't necessarily want to do, forgiving yourself for those times, loving yourself for those times, exploring what they've given to you, all of that. And the same goes for the people that have hurt you. One of the most powerful ways that you can dive even deeper into this process is by taking all of the people in your current life that bring up these feelings in you in certain ways, because sometimes it's hard to just compartmentalize our healing and say, okay, now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to release my shame. It's much easier to do this process in the moment when you're feeling that heat, when you're feeling that disconnect from your body. Those are the moments when this work can happen. And so oftentimes our past traumas are triggered by present people. And so we can use those present people as gifts, saying, okay, this person is bringing this up in me to show me that it's time to release it. It's time to let it go. And so say your boyfriend says something to you about your body that really triggers you. What we want to begin to do is not snap at him. We want to say, okay, I see this is bringing up something from my past. I need to remove myself from the situation. Go grab a pen, a piece of paper, and start writing everything that wants to fly out of your mouth at him. Just start writing and writing and writing and writing. There's no right or wrong way to do it. There's nothing that you need to or don't need to say. Just start writing and allow yourself to get curious. Invite in a curiosity and say, okay, where is this coming from? Who has made me feel like this in the past? Because sometimes we don't even know where all of these batons that we've been handed, because oftentimes we're handed more than one. So sometimes we don't even know where they've come from. And so what we need those people in our present life situation to bring up those feelings so we can say, oh, okay, it's time to dive in here and see what's going on so that I can release it. And as we're saying what we need to say, a lot of feeling is going to come up. And so we need to feel what we need to feel. Really, really feel what we need to feel. And as a whole, our society, again, shames feeling bad. We give people pills because, oh, you're depressed, so here's a pill. It's not accepted to feel bad. And I want to give you permission to feel bad, to stop shaming feeling bad, to stop shaming feeling upset. You're not broken. Feeling upset, feeling bad, feeling shame, feeling guilt, feeling powerlessness, all of these are a part of the human experience, but they are not the entirety of the human experience. They are not the entirety of the human experience. And the process of walking towards self-love, the process of living in a space of self-love, means that you honor that truth. While depression, while shame, while fear, while trauma, while all of these things are a part of the human experience, they are not the totality of the human experience. And in giving yourself permission to be the person that you were before you were hurt, in giving yourself permission to set down that baton, to set down that shame, to set down that trauma, to set down that abuse, in giving yourself that permission, what you're doing is honoring that while the journey up to this point has been a certain story, the story is not finished. And so the story of those emotions, the story of those shames, the story of those feelings then fuels the story that you want to write. What you need to ask yourself right now is, am I letting this story of my past, am I letting this story of my pain, am I letting this story of my struggle write me? Or am I standing with the pen in my hand, writing the story of who I'm here to be? Am I standing pen in hand, writing the story of who I am here to be? And giving yourself permission to change to holding the pen in your hand and writing the story of who you're here to be, even if you don't know how, giving yourself permission to do that. That is the healing. That is the journey to self-love. We don't necessarily always need to know how. All we have to do is have a willingness to see how it can be done and surrender it up. We need to embrace all of those feelings of darkness, all of those feelings of shame, and say, what are you here to teach me? What are you here to show me? What are you here to give me? How can I find gratitude in my being for you? And in order to be grateful for an emotion, in order to learn something from an emotion, we have to first embrace it and accept that it's there. Oftentimes, as I mentioned, as we're going through this process of saying all that we need to say, as we're going through this process of digging up all of these repressed things that have been causing these imbalances in our lives, we might start to feel a little bit more tired. We might start to feel a lot more, and we might start to feel like things are getting worse. We might start to feel like we're having suddenly more and more stories pop up, but that's not the case at all. What's actually happening is that you're just becoming more aware of them. And so this is where insane amounts of compassion is absolutely necessary. We need to be so gentle with ourselves when we're going through these times. We need to give ourselves permission to take more time to do things during our day. We need to give ourselves permission to take more walks, to take more baths, to give ourselves more time to eat our meals, all of that. We need to give ourselves permission to take up more space, because one of the biggest things that I've found when it comes to shame and sexual shame is we feel guilty for taking up space. We feel guilty for owning our presence in the world. We feel guilty for asking for things that are going to serve our presence in the world, that are going to serve our pleasure. One of the biggest effects of shame, of sexual shame, is not feeling worthy of pleasure. Not feeling worthy of pleasure. And so we do things like abuse our bodies. We do things like ignore our bodies. We do things like deprive our bodies of things that are going to make us feel good, or we feel good, but then we feel bad for feeling good. And so this process of letting these emotions come up is a really gentle process of saying, okay, I just felt really bad, Let me do something that's going to make me feel really good. Let me call my best friend. Let me go watch a shitty movie. Let me go eat a piece of chocolate. Let me go go drink a glass of wine. Let me go do whatever is going to serve me in this moment. Sometimes those things that are going to serve us actually aren't going to feel the best, but it's coming into that space of alignment every single day, that awareness, that knowingness of what is actually going on, doing that free writing, doing that letter writing, and living in a space of awareness. No longer letting your shame be something that just plays on repeat in the background, bringing it to the forefront and saying, no, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. I acknowledge that you're here, I embrace you, I love you, and I set you free. I take the courage, I take the strength, I take the bravery that you have given me, and I leave the rest. I leave the rest. And then ultimately, this journey completes itself when in each moment you choose joy. You no longer feel like because you've been handed this baton at a certain point in time, you have to choose struggle. So often we do. We feel like we have to choose struggle because we've been given this thing and it's made us struggle, and so this is just how life is. But what healing is, what self-love is choosing joy in each moment. Asking when faced with choices, what is going to give me the most joy? Sometimes that's going to be not eating the chocolate because it's not going to make your body feel good. Sometimes it is going to be eating the chocolate. Who knows? Only you know, right? Only you know. Only you can make that call. But that healing is that choosing of joy in each moment, choosing to allow yourself to embody the girl that you were before you were hurt, but not disowning that girl that got hurt. Taking her courage, taking her strength, taking her bravery, taking all of that, embodying that in this moment, and both of you together walking forward to create a life more beautiful, free, limitless, and bold than you could have ever imagined. Ever, ever, ever imagined. I've got a worksheet for you to work through called Deconstructing Your Hurt. And this is going to help you bring awareness to how your hurt is manifesting itself in your life, where it might be causing you to just keep shoving it down and repeating the same patterns, and how you can begin to bring awareness to that so that you can release it. And as you work through it, I really want you to be honest. Honesty is key, absolutely key. When we're not honest with ourselves, nothing can begin, right? If I had stayed in this space of blaming my life on a man that I hadn't seen since I was 12, if I'd continued to stay in that space of blaming him for all of my choices, I never would have been able to get to the place where I am today. I had to take ownership of my life and say, okay, at a certain point in time, yes, I was hurt, but I'm the only one that is making my decisions right now. I'm the only one that is choosing to overschedule myself every second of every day. I am the only one that is choosing to clam up and not speak my truth. I am the only one that is choosing to walk around and see the world as my enemy. I no longer want to make these choices, and so I am willing to show up every day and do the work that I need to do in order to make the choices and live in the world in the way that I want to live in the world. And that really came in just that constant awareness that I brought to all of the stories that were playing on repeat, all of the letter writing that I did to my dad, all of the work that I did on bringing awareness to in the moment. Okay, this specific situation, my boss telling me he's not going to give me a raise is making me feel this way. Let me go home later and figure out, okay, I was feeling like this in this moment, and I couldn't say this, and this is what I needed to say, and if I would have said it, what would have happened, and all of it, just exploring all of that, getting it out of my head, getting it out of my head and onto paper, out of my body, getting all of that emotion out, letting myself feel it, letting myself be uncomfortable, and then it goes. And you take this next step lighter. You take the next step lighter. You take the next step lighter. So to recap, what is shame? What is sexual shame? It's this baton that we're carrying, that's making us feel broken and crippled in some way. This baton that we're carrying that nobody has ever given us permission to set down. That journey to self-love is that setting down of the baton, honoring the strength, honoring the bravery, honoring the everything that it has given you, and walking away with an awareness, walking away with an honoring of all that it has given you, and moving forward towards the life that you want to live, moving forward as the you that you're here to be, moving forward as the you that what you were before you were hurt. It's simple. It's not easy. Get support. Find a woman or two in your life that you can come to and you can spew all of these things. A woman who's not going to try to fix you. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You're not alone in your experience. There are so many individuals, not just women on this planet, who have experienced this hurt. And as you move through this process, my hope for you is that you can begin to see that no one hands us a baton that has not been handed one before. And so the person that hurt you, the people that have hurt you, the people that make you feel hurt, it's because they're hurting inside. Just like at some point in time, you have probably hurt somebody because of the hurt that you've been carrying. The people who have hurt you have only done so because of the hurt that they've been carrying. And so this work that you do in setting down the baton, this work that you do in reclaiming the person that you were before you were hurt, this work that you do to embody a life of self-love, to embody a life of healing, this work is the most important work that we can do in this world, because this work is the work that makes it so that nobody has to walk around at some point in the future with these batons of shame, of guilt, of repression, of feeling not okay to take up their space in the world. Before I let you go, I would love to just say a prayer. Say a prayer to solidify your commitment to this healing. Say a prayer to solidify your commitment to this work. So wherever you're at, I invite you to just rest your hands gently in your lap, face up. Place both of your feet on the floor if you can, if that's comfortable for you, or just really settle into your body. Close your eyes. Take a deep exhale. And a nice gentle inhale through your nose. Really coming into this space of all that you are, coming into the space of awareness of all that you have been through and all that you have yet to experience. And that expansion and that beauty that those two destinations give to you in this now. Bringing your hands to your heart center, bowing your head to your heart. In this moment, we give thanks. We give thanks for every single step that has led us to right here and right now. We give thanks for every step that has felt like a thorn in the sole of our foot. We give thanks for every step that has felt like a footprint in the sand as the ocean washes across the top of our foot. We give thanks for every step because each of these, both the thorn and the ocean, have given us a deeper awareness, a deeper understanding of what it is we truly want. The thorn has shown us our capacity to keep going even though we may have been hurt. The ocean reminds us that it is okay for us to soften, that it is okay for us to be washed, to be cleansed, to be free. In this moment, we commit to walking a path away from the batons of shame that we have been carrying. We commit to setting them down. We commit to rising up and walking forward, stronger, braver, more courageous, freer. We ask that in those moments when we want to turn around and pick the baton back up, that we may be reminded of why it is we started. That we may be reminded of who it is that we are here to be, that we may be reminded of the compassion and the love that surrounds us. We ask that in these moments we are wrapped in wings of warmth, in wings of magic that carry us back towards what we desire. We commit in this moment to seeing how we might be able to trust ourselves. We commit in this moment to seeing how we might be able to find strength in complete vulnerability. We ask in this moment that we see how we might be able to experience our pain, experience our shame, experience our darkness in compassion. Experience them with grace. Experience them with a knowing that they are serving us a deeper appreciation and understanding of the paradise, of the pleasure, of the freedom, of the limitlessness, of the love that we are here to be. In this moment, we commit with a willingness to step into the world as the person that we were before we were hurt, to live with her as the leader of this life once more. But we also commit in this moment to no longer disown the woman that was hurt, no longer shame her, no longer tell her, how dare she. We commit in this moment to loving her fully for all that she has given us, loving her fully for getting us to this moment, loving her fully for keeping on going regardless of how difficult it may have been. We honor her in this moment, and we ask that her wisdom, we ask that her insight be present with us as we go forth. We pray that all of the support, all of the love, all of the tools, all of the insights that we need as we walk this journey may be set on our path in divine moments, and that we may be open to receive the guidance that they have to offer. We ask that we may be able to see our bodies as a divine gift, showing us where we still have shame sitting. That we may ask our bodies what it is they need in order to release this shame, so that we may step forward lighter, freer, and in more ease. We ask all of this and more in the name of the highest truth, and so it is. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for showing up in this world, in a space of love, in a space of compassion. Thank you so much for walking every single step of your life with such bravery, with such courage, with such strength. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We need you, we need your love, we need your light. And your only work on this earth is to embody that within. I love you, you're amazing. And I look forward to seeing you shine and dance in your spotlight.